it's Trinity, and today I have a video up for part 1 of my project, and it's 10 facts you need to know about the American Revolution. The American Revolution began over taxes. The colonists were upset with the taxes they were forced to pay England. Some of these taxes included the Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, and the Tea Act. To show they were unhappy with the Tea Act, men in Boston dressed up like Native Americans and threw a shipment of tea from ships in Boston Harbor overboard. This became known as the Boston Tea Party. George Washington was named the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. He led the colonists against England. The first battle of the American Revolution was the Battle of Bunker Hill on June 17, 1775. While the British won, it was a very costly victory. On July 4, 1776, the leaders of the colonists, called the Continental Congress, signed the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson wrote most of the Declaration of Independence. He would later become the third president of the United States. Benedict Arnold was a famous American military leader. He became a traitor when he joined the British Army in 1780. Molly Pitcher was the character of a woman who fought in the American Revolutionary War. She may have been based on a real woman, or a representation of all the different women who helped during the war. Benjamin Franklin was a colonial leader during the Revolution. He helped write both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. He was also a scientist and an inventor. The Battle of Yorktown was the last battle of the American Revolution. The war officially ended with the Treaty of Paris on September 3, 1783.
Toward the close of the 18th century, the revolutionary bug that had spread throughout Europe and North America made its way to Latin America.
Finally, after hundreds of years of European domination, the people of Latin America were ready to ring the bells of freedom.
Like the disenfranchised of the American and European revolutions, the lower classes of Latin society had reached their fill.
Creoles, mestizos, and mulattoes, who were all of mixed ancestral descent, who were no longer willing to take a back seat to those of pure European blood.
Thus, revolution came to Latin America. In Haiti, revolution was led by Toussaint Louverture.
As a free man, Louverture led the native, enslaved population of Haiti in revolt against their European masters.
Occurring in 1791, this rebellion was victorious, seeing the freedom of enslaved Haitians within a decade.
Although the year 1802 saw them once again threatened by the forces of Napoleon, who desired to retake Haiti, the freedom-hungry Haitians refused to be vanquished.
Finally, in 1804, the Haitians declared their official independence.
Perhaps just as significant, their success rocked the institution of slavery all over the Americas.
In Mexico, the Catholic priest Miguel Hidalgo also decided it was time to throw off the chains of Europe.
On September 16, 1810, he and his followers rose up in revolution against Spain.
However, they were not as successful as their Haitian counterparts.
Although they had some initial success, they were unable to take the capital city.
Hidalgo was captured and executed in 1811.
Despite this, September 16th is commemorated as Mexico's Independence Day.
Taking up Hidalgo's revolutionary mantle, rebels were finally able to overthrow the Spanish.
In 1820s, the Free Republic of Mexico was born.
Similar scenes played out in Central America as local leaders rebelled against Spain and together created the United Provinces of Central America.
Although they began as one, these free areas soon became the independent states of Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and El Salvador.
Perhaps the most famous of all 19th century Latin American revolutions occurred in South America.
Led by Simón Bolívar, known to history as the Liberator and Republic in Venezuela, began to form.
Following this, the areas of Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador were liberated.
As other South American territories began to rebel against Spain, Bolívar had a vision for the formation of one nation under the name of Gran Colombia.
In the late 1700s, most people worked in the fields, on land they did not own. Those who owned the land, called aristocrats, lived refined lives in elegant manor houses. Servants raised their children and did their housework. The landowners and the people who worked for them depended upon each other. It was a system that had existed for centuries. In towns across England and the United States, a series of extraordinary innovations would alter the way people lived and worked for the next 150 years. Inventors had found new ways to harness nature's energy. They built new kinds of machines powered by water, steam, and coal. The new machines replaced hand-powered tools. They did the same work, only cheaper and faster. Much of the work was done outside the home, in specially designed buildings, the first factories. Mechanization began in the textile mills of England, where one machine attached to a spinning wheel could do the work of 50 people. Fuel, clothing, and food all became more affordable. With the development of locomotives and steamboats, manufactured goods could now be sold halfway around the world. Families moved from the villages of their ancestors to new industrial towns. And a new class of people emerged, workers who produced goods. Industrialists, the people who owned the factories, employed hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. And they made enormous profits in their industrial centers. But while the Industrial Revolution brought wealth to some and jobs for others, it came with a price tag. Pollution from coal-powered factories turned the cities black. Lack of housing created the first urban slums. And the demand for more and more goods and higher profits brought the exploitation of workers, including children. Some of the worst conditions were seen in the textile mills of New England. In the 1830s, a 10-year-old mill girl described her life.
We were paid $2 a week, and the working hours of all the girls extended from 5 o'clock in the morning till 7 in the evening, with 1.5 hour for breakfast and for dinner.
It was the hiring of children, some as young as 5 years old, throughout the 1800s and early 1900s, that outraged the public. Workers and reformers protested. They formed unions and associations and fought for government regulations to limit the workday and protect children. These laws helped address many of the abuses brought on by the Industrial Revolution.
There are many among us who in the past closed their eyes to events abroad because they believed that what was taking place in Europe was none of our business, that we could maintain our physical safety by retiring within our continental boundaries. To those who would not admit the possibility of the approaching storm, the past weeks have meant the shattering of many illusions.
With a third of Europe now under Nazi control, America still sits on the sidelines. Many believe the war to be Europe's problem. Recalling the horrors of World War I, the majority of Americans don't want to get involved in another European war. President Franklin Roosevelt attempts to convince them otherwise. On September 16, 1940, Roosevelt signs the Selective Training and Service Act, the first peacetime draft in American history. All able-bodied men between 21 and 30 must register for military service. Though Congress approves the bill, it is careful to call it a national defense measure. The draftees may only be sent to defend American-held territories. 2 years ago, the United States had the 17th largest army in the world, smaller than tiny Romania's. And almost 2/3 of American recruits have never fired a rifle. By the summer of 1941, Hitler is ready to launch his forces further east. In June, his armies invade the Soviet Union. By September, they have captured over 1.4 million Soviet troops. In November, Germany, Japan, and Italy renew their military alliance. All agreed to safeguard their common interests. The Axis powers are ready to carve up the world.
Washington. The White House announces Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The facts of yesterday and today speak for themselves. The people of the United States have already formed their opinions and well understand the implications to the very life and safety of our nation.
4 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Germany and Italy declare war on the United States. It is the first and only time Hitler actually declares war on another nation. Across the U.S., panic spreads as Americans realize they have enemies off both coasts. Surging above the fear is a wave of patriotism and outrage. Within 30 days of the attack, over 134,000 young men enlist for service, ready to take the fight to the enemy. The wars in Europe and Asia now merge into a single gigantic world war, the largest war in history.